Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is News and Week in Review, where we're going to cover a variety of things from the news, the creator highlight, the videos of the week, the games we've covered this past week, all of that and more, links and timestamps to everything down below. We're going to start off with, well, news, as we typically do. I have a bunch of things to cover. There's something else I wanted to cover. I think I know what it was. I'm not sure. I have a vague... You know what, we'll get to it. Let's just go ahead and dive into the video, starting off with our news. Our news, we're starting with Polygon over here. A new Lord of the Rings tabletop game is on the way from the creator of Pandemic. So it does seem like Pandemic is going to be a Pandemic variation from Matt Leacock, the creator of Pandemic. I will note this article, it says, "You shall not pass, you shall not collect 200 gold." That immediately led me to click on Ian Walker's profile to see the articles he has written, because it didn't feel like the tagline that somebody would have written who's more familiar with modern board games. That feels, I mean, it could have been if you're trying to appeal to a larger demographic that might recognize that and not something else. Either way, there's no, what's it called? What do you want to call it? No gatekeeping here. You don't have to be someone who plays board games to write articles on board games, but as someone who loves board games, this article immediately made me feel like this is covering the news rather than being invested in the news, if that makes sense. Which I do sometimes. Not all news pieces am I invested in. Also, this tangent is way too long. Anyways, Matt Leacock is bringing Pandemic / Lord of the Rings to your tabletop, so expect that. A new Lord of the Rings, a new Pandemic game. Pandemic has been overdone, but it is very clearly the season of Lord of the Rings. Speaking of which, that's a perfect tangent to our next news piece over here. We have Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game unseats Sky Team to top weekly new owner charts. This is an article from Board Game Wire, but basically Board Game Geek tracks the number of new owners of various games, and it looks like Fellowship of the Ring unseated Sky Team, which has managed to hold strong for a while now, and Fellowship of the Ring, I believe, is going to have the appeal of the crew and the IP of Lord of the Rings, and is going to be a massively successful game, and yeah, this is just one of many pieces of evidence that there's a lot of hotness around this. I saw someone posting on a board game Facebook forum somewhere at some point talking about, like, hey, what kind of advertising campaign is going on around the Fellowship of the Ring, because it feels like everyone's talking about it and they're trying to figure out how and who paid for all that advertising. And I'm not saying there's not paid advertising going on. There probably is some degree of paid advertising, but sometimes you can't bottle lightning in a jar. Sometimes things going viral happen for a variety of reasons, and this was very much a game that just got people excited. A cheap price point, a popular IP, on top of a game that's very popular. A lot of people, from anyone who just got their hands in it at PAX Unplugged to content creators getting their hands in it, this has been one that has been very, very sought after by a lot of people. There's just a lot of hype and buzz around this game for a variety of reasons, very few of which have to do with a large advertising campaign for it. I assume, I could be wrong, by the way, maybe there's tons of advertising I don't know about, but this just feels like natural virility. That's the wrong word. Viralness, as opposed to anything else. Anyways, from there we have Parks from Keymaster Games. Parks is coming out with a second edition over here. They're going to have their Summit Deluxe Edition and their Base Camp Retail Edition. The new art, new whatever. I don't think there's any new gameplay changes. I don't believe so. I think it's the same gameplay. Expanded. No, brand new art, expanded gameplay. Oh, that's right. I do remember reading this. This is going to be a combination of the best parts of the expansion. So it's not the base game and expansions. It's the base game and the best parts of the expansions. I still haven't played the expansions to Parks. I still need to do so, and hopefully that will happen at some point sooner rather than later. We move on over here to Northgard Uncharted Horizons, launching February 18th. I do vaguely recall covering this in the past, but in case I didn't, I was like, you know what? I'll go ahead and cover it here, because I saw this news piece and I was like, I think I covered it already. Either way, Northgard Uncharted Lands, the expansion to Northgard, is launching February 18th, so if you are a fan of Northgard the video game or Northgard the board game, this is something to go ahead and put on your calendar, I guess. Do you have a calendar for games launching, or do you just follow a bunch of people and or the space and or Facebook and or all that paid marketing advertising? Either way, curious what you're doing over there. And then lastly, we have CMON over here. David Wainwright has been appointed as CMON's new global marketing director. You might be familiar with that name because he is part of the channel Man vs. Meeple, and he's being appointed as CMON's new global marketing director, which so far I've been pretty happy to see that the feedback has been generally positive on, which granted I'm always biased on, but like there's always a little pushback when content creators join the other side of the industry, which sometimes is necessary just due to the small size of the space and just how much money you can practically make there. Obviously, as someone who works both for YouTube over here and is also CMO of GameFound, I am very sympathetic to the balancing of both worlds, but I also understand when there's people in the audience who are frustrated by that, the extra conflicts that it can produce. But that said, I think David is a delightful human being. He's someone that, in general, if you've had the opportunity to interact with him in any capacity, you probably share that opinion of him, and I'm very happy for both him on a personal and professional level, but I also think he'll do a great job balancing that conflict to whatever degree he can with whatever necessary. I don't know, I think he'll do a great job balancing the conflict is what my point is, and also congratulations to him for this, because it's cool to see what's going to come next from David and Simon. And that is what we have for our news, which brings us to our creator highlight. Our creator highlight, in general, this is the segment where I take a look at a creator, whether a designer, board game, content creator, why did I say board game? Whether designer, publisher, content creator, whoever. I do tend to prioritize content creators in here. That's more who I think of as creators, even though there's many creators in many capacities. Next week, we will do a non-board game creator, non-content creator, definitely a board game creator. Anyways, so over here, for our creator spotlight, we have Chris George from Room and Board. Chris George is a delightful human being, another delightful human being, although if I had to pair him up against David Waybright, I know for sure who I would say would win, but I can't tell if I would say that because I believe it or because I just want to upset Chris. I'm not entirely sure. Both are equally valid options. But Chris George from the channel Room and Board, you may have had the opportunity to interact with him in a variety of places. Again, those who have had the privilege to do so will agree that he is a delightful human being, even if he's not as delightful as David Waybright from Man vs. Meeple. But he's just a generally sparkling personality. He's a sparkling personality, always has a smile on his face, both on his channel and off his channel. And he's someone that has consistently been steadfast to who he is the entire time that he is running the channel. And that's a complicated subject to get into, but the very nature of being in the YouTube space, it is very easy for things to change and adjust. People's personalities can stay the same. I like to think that my personality has stayed the same, although it's hard to ever say for sure, but the way people engage with the space certainly can change, and that definitely did happen for me. I went from just wanting to talk about topics to then shifting to all kinds of different things just because that's kind of where the channel took me, for better or for worse. Some people will always want, that channel that puts out a review. Like, when I first started, this is not about me. I'm going to go back to Chris George in a second. I'm setting up how bad I am so that I can set up how good Chris George is. There's a reason I'm talking about me, and it's in a not mean sense, but either way, I'm setting Chris George up over here. I'm setting Chris George up over here. But if you go back to my earlier videos, I barely ever did reviews. I would I would mostly talk about topics. I would do top 10 lists. I didn't want to review board games. It wasn't my goal. And then over time, I was like, okay, well, I guess if I'm a content creator, I'm going to review a bunch of board games. And now they're half the videos that go up on the channel every week. From the 14 to 15 videos that go up on the channel a week, like 6 or 7 of them are gameplays and or reviews and or unboxing, which is never what I originally wanted to do. And I pivoted and adjusted, and I'm not unhappy with it. I'm happy with it, but it's certainly a change. If you watched Chris George's channel since the beginning, he has managed to stay pretty consistently the same since the beginning. The way he approaches things, his personality, the way he engages with publishers, the audience, all of that has been an absolute delight. From the crowdfunding coverage he does, where he takes a very critical look at crowdfunding campaigns, whether you should get them and all that, or just generally informational, while also being mindful to not overly praise the big box games. He has an entire series devoted to top 5 reasons not to back a game that crossed $1 million. He always picks these campaigns that crossed $1 million of funding, and then he says a few nice things about the campaign to set up the fact that he's then going to say a whole bunch of reasons not to back the games. Most of those reasons are usually pretty good reasons too. He has his review coverage, which will show up here and there when he's excited about something or possibly not excited about something. It depends on the review, I guess, as well as his interaction with his community and his Patreon on these matchups. His most recent video is a whole year built up to this Champion of Champions Deathmatch 2024. He has incredibly interesting side pieces from musical pieces. His musical talent is off the chart. If you've seen him collaborate with Kagan Productions, Kagan, is it Productions? I think it's Productions, but Kagan Advertising Productions, I believe. He has done some incredible video work there. He is just a man of many, many talents. And speaking of his many talents, you may have also gotten to see him on World of Series Board Gaming, the WSBG World Series of Board Gaming. He has been their person, their face for a while as well. So you may have had the opportunity to interact with him there or see him there. But again, generally, he is a delightful human being who just happens to not be as delightful as David Waybright from Man vs. Meeple. Anyways, with that, let's go ahead and dive into the Week in Review. Let me go ahead and stop this over here. Diving into the Week in Review, we have the following videos that went up this past week. We have ranking KTBG and Burnt Island games. So KTBG and Burnt Island Games, Kids Table Board Gaming, Burnt Island Games, they are sister companies, 2 different types of games that they put out for their audience, more heavy strategy games or medium to heavy strategy games. as well as the lighter family line of KTPG that puts out a bunch of more family-friendly accessible games, although some of them can still be thoroughly enjoyable from an adult perspective as well. But either way, I did one of my ranking videos where I went through all their games and ranked them from least to most, covering my favorite games in their collection. We had 2 back or not to back going up on Monday, covering, well, crowdfunding. We'll have another one this Monday, and the following Monday we will not, because I will be at Level Up Retreat. Speaking of which, by the way, you can also see Chris George at Level Up Retreat. And speaking of which, by the way, he'll also be running a WSBG qualifier. You should check that out if you are going or interested. And then also make sure to stay tuned for a video tomorrow where I'll have a final update on Level Up stuff. I didn't think I was going to have another video, but there's a large enough giveaway happening at Level Up that is much bigger than I thought it was going to be, that I'm posting a full video on that tomorrow. So if you are in any way interested or nearby, anyways, watch tomorrow's video. But as far as where were we? 2 back, not to back. I will not have 2 back, not to back next week. I will have this week, like, coming up Monday, but not the week after that. Anyways, past that, we have 2023 games that faded. To be clear, that's games from 2023 that faded for me across the past year and a half or so, not 2023 games that faded for me. That would be a lot of games. I don't even know if I've played 2023 games. I figure my estimate is usually around 1,500 or so. Like, I have over 1,000 logged games I have over 1,000 games that I've logged that I've played, but I also only started logging like 7 years into the hobby. So like, I roughly estimate that I've played 1,500 games, although obviously that number will go up by like 200 to 300 a year. So eventually I'll have played 2023 games, but that's not quite yet. Anyways, if you want to see a look back at some of the games that have faded for me over the past year and a half, that was my 2023 games that faded video. We have the weekly live. I did another weekly live because I've been on track doing those. There will hopefully be one this week on Tuesday, not on Thursday because I'll be at Level Up Retreat. And then we also had a Marvel, on Friday we had a Marvel United organizer video. There's also a giveaway in that video sponsored by One Sharp Joe. The video is not sponsored, the giveaway is sponsored. One Sharp Joe is giving away some of the cool things I showed in that video. The drawing for that will not be this next week in review, but the one after. So basically 2 weeks from today, I'll be doing a drawing for who won the Marvel United thingy-majiggies. Anyways, past that, later that day, we have the Where Are They Now, taking a look at January of 2024. I guess January 2024 is a year ago, and January of 2020 is 5 years ago. So I did a Where Are They Now? This is a series where I take a look a year ago and 5 years ago and see how things faded, or not faded, see how things fared over that time frame. As far as the games we covered this past week, we covered a few. We covered Cascadia Jr. Cascadia Jr. is AEG and FlatOut's game that is meant to be Cascadia, but for lighter audiences. It was unfortunately a miss for me. As much as I've appreciated the offshoot of the Cascadia Roll and Write line, not all Cascadia products are created equal, and Cascadia Jr. to me just didn't have enough interesting things happening in it. It wasn't. There are many light, medium, heavy. There's games from all different levels of taste and all that. Cascadia Jr. was nothing wrong with it. It's a fine game, but it also wasn't one that captured me in any way, unfortunately, either from the perspective of an adult or the perspective of an adult playing with kids, or also my kids who played that game also didn't totally vibe. Again, it was fine. No one had a bad time. We didn't stop playing it, but it wasn't one that was being requested a lot. We have a preview for Malediction. This is a sponsored coverage for Malediction. We do have a gameplay going up this week, so I guess I'll give my thoughts on Malediction in next week's week in review. I have played it already, but I usually do it after the video went up and the gameplay. I'll cover my thoughts on Malediction next week. Anyways, as far as that goes, we have Teotihuacan. I did a first impressions of Teotihuacan. It is a tentative 4 out of 5. Tentative just means I'm giving it a 4 out of 5, but it is done with 1 play under its belt. This is very much a first impressions. I got the game only a few days before the crowdfunding campaign went live, so there wasn't really a lot of time to get a bunch of plays in, so I got a play in and then have coverage up, and that is what it is. I usually prefer to get multiple plays, but again, I've always said when I don't, I'll just tell you, and that way at least you're walking in informed. And the tricky part is I do believe it's a game that would go up, in my opinion, the more I played it, but I also believe it's not a game that's going to land where some of my favorite Euros are. So it's a 4 to 5, which is a pretty good, it's a recommendation. I definitely recommend it. It's a top game on Board Game Geek, top 100. I've had a lot of fun with it, and you would not be twisting my arm if I were to play it again, but I just would rather play some of my favorite Euros over it. Then we also had, coverage of, Ward Traveler. Ward Traveler from Office Dog Games, who also the people who are doing that Lord of the Rings trick-taking game, but Ward Traveler was a fun, enjoyable, little cooperative, trying to figure things out with hidden information game, with not hidden information, with a limited communication game. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. It's a fun game. It doesn't do anything amazingly incredible, but it's a good, enjoyable experience. There's also a review of Hearts of Iron from Steamforged Games. Gave that a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed the overall area control, dudes in a map puzzle, combined with the little levers you have in the game to adjust what you're doing better than the others. And I think one of my favorite things is the amount of interaction you can have with the board before having to go head-to-head with your opponents. So I really enjoy games that give you, and it's a delicate balance. Like when you play something like Small World, the board that's in the way just feels like something that's in the way. It doesn't feel like you're taking down enemy nations when you take down the various, whatever they're called in the game. But when you play a game like, I don't know, what's a direct game? Cyclades is a direct conflict game that every interaction that's conflict-based is going to be with another player. I think Hearts of Iron did a great job at giving you enemy nation states that are these minor states, minor players that you do have to encounter and engage with, and it does take strategy and work and effort to properly plan out your turn, so it feels satisfying when you spread your nation in the game, but also you don't have to go head-to-head with other actual players all the time, although you will certainly do so. Overall, definitely enjoyed it, gave it a 4 out of 5. And then lastly, this Finspan. Finspan is a good one. We covered Finspan. There was a review and gameplay that went up this past Thursday. I really enjoyed Finspan. I thought it was a very solid, another contender in the Wingspan series. To me, it completely killed Wingspan for me personally, because for me, Finspan is the weight of Wingspan, but just a better game. Versus Wormspan is a little different than Wingspan, a little more heavyweight, a little more strategy going on. For me, I think in a weird way, I rate Wormspan heavier. I rate better. I rate Wormspan better at a 4 out of 5, but I think Finspan is the one I'm most likely to play, coming in at a 3.5 out of 5, but I think it's the one I would just be more likely to table, because if I'm going to table Wormspan, I'd probably rather play something else. If I want something in that lighter category, Finspan works. It's not lighter than Wingspan to me. It is the same weight class as Wingspan, but just overall did a great job with it. Again, I think I've never been the main target audience for the Span series, but I do like Finspan a lot, and I'm happy that it does exist. But either way, that is my coverage of Finspan. Which brings us to today. Today we have a few videos going up. We're going to have a Malediction gameplay going up, which I mentioned already, but Malediction gameplay is going to be going up on the channel, and there'll also be a Dragon Eclipse all-in unboxing going up later today at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As far as videos next week, there'll be a few things. We should have a New Year's resolution video going up on Sunday. There'll also be a final call for Level Up Retreat going up on Sunday. Again, I'll have some final information on, I don't even know necessarily what I'll have, but one of the main things I want to cover, like we have over 100 play to wins that are, like the play to win category has expanded heavily. We have over 100 games that we're giving away, in addition to another large giveaway on top of that, with another 40 or so fairly expensive games that are very hard to get being given away, but you can check out that video on Sunday, and then that's as far as those videos, and then outside of that, there'll be other things. There'll be how many games have lasted 10 years in my collection videos should be going up. The Minos review I promised you last week that got pushed off because of other games, that should hopefully be going up, and also, that brings us to the games on the table, where one of these games will hopefully, two of these games will hopefully have coverage going up next week. Speaking of, what are the games on the table? I got someone last week who's like, why are you tagging at games on the table, Alex? It's not on the table. They didn't say it aggressively. I added the aggressive tone for dramatic effect, but it was not aggressive at all. But this week, we are actually doing it from the table. So the games on the table. We have a whole bunch of games I hope to be playing this week because I have Level Up Retreat coming, and I have a lot of plans. But in the short term over here, Seti is one of the games I hope to be playing while at Level Up. I have a date with Jeremy Howard where I plan on playing this game. I've already learned it. I just haven't, like if I was teaching the game, I probably need to read the rules again. But I've learned it enough that I could probably dive in reasonably decently without a rules teach, but I'm still hoping there's someone at the table who doesn't know how to play so I can get a rules teach just in case. We have Cthulhu Death May Die Forbidden Reaches. If things go as planned, I hope to have coverage for you this week. I want to do a gameplay and a review. I don't think I'll have both this week, but hopefully I'll have one of them because I haven't played it yet at all, so I'd like to get multiple games in before the review, but I'm hoping to get a gameplay in this week. No promises, but I'm certainly going to try to, so it's here on the table. Then we also have Tamashii Chronicles of Ascend. It is actually set up on this table in front of you. You can't see it because the camera angle doesn't show it, but it's set up a little behind the camera angle. I just need to bring some things forward, but Tamashii Chronicle of Ascend is one that I hope to be finally diving into. I'm going to be playing this solo, but I'm going to be diving into Tamashii finally because I want to give this one a shot. And if you want more information as to why I'm giving it a shot, all you have to do is watch my Dragon Eclipse unboxing, and you'll see some information there in that about Tamashii and why it's not like secret. It's not like anything, like a magical thing in Dragon Eclipse. I'm knocking games off my list. Okay, I got another campaign game in, and things have to leave the list. And Tamashii, I made a commitment to myself to start playing it. So hopefully, by the time you watch this video, I'll already have played it. The first session, I played the prototype, never played the final game. And then lastly, I hope to have coverage for you this week on Everdell Silverfrost. This just showed up 20 minutes before I was doing this video. I hope to be playing this. Like, they just sent over, like, they were late on their prototypes and all that. I just got this. I will be playing this, well, hopefully today already, and then hopefully I'll get, let's see, when can this video go up? Thursday. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think where, you know how I just told you Minos is going up this week? I might be wrong, unfortunately, because I'm realizing I need to figure out where in the schedule this can go, and it's probably either Tuesday or Thursday, depending on when I can get my plays in. But expect some coverage on Everdell Silverfrost as soon as I possibly can. I hope the rulebook's in here, because I want the rulebook in here. Let me see. We got a rulebook? Nope, we got a piece of paper that tells me to read stuff that I'm definitely not going to read. I think there's a rulebook. I think I saw a rulebook there. If not, I do have the digital PDF, but I prefer physical rulebooks. Anyways, Everdell Silverfrost, I hope to be playing this as soon as possible, and we'll have coverage for you as soon as I possibly can. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have an excellent week, and if you are going to level up, I hope I will see you there. Well, if you're going to level up, I better see you there. It's not that many people. There's like 400 people-ish or so. Odds are I'll see you at some point. The real question is whether I get to play a game with you. And honestly, that you just make sure to ask, and that will be a good starting point. Anyways, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.